The First World War was a terrible mix of medieval mentality and modern age weapons. Thousands of men signed up as wide-eyed adventurers, expecting glory and fame. Then they came back scarred, as battle-hardened men. Tolkien was one of these wide-eyed boys who signed up looking to become a hero. He and his 3 friends, part of the Tea Club Barorian Society, left for the war. Only Tolkien and Christopher Wiseman made it back. Tolkien later wrote, "By 1918, all but one of my close friends were dead." Writing comes from personal experience, so it should not be shocking to hear that The Lord of the Rings has a multitude of scenes and themes that come straight from Tolkien's experience fighting in the Somme, the great battle that took 1,000,000 lives for no gain. Tolkien wanted to write about 4 friends leaving on a grand adventure to change the world, just as he thought his friend group would do. Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin all set out on this adventure to save the world, to destroy the One Ring, ensure Sauron is defeated, and save the realm of men. On this journey, they constantly talk of wanting to return home. They remember the Shire, the great nature around it, wanting to eat the food the hobbits are so accustomed to. But as they go forward, that starts to seem all like a distant memory. But even after the adventure is done, they never truly return home. To follow the adventure of these 4 hobbits is to watch a group of wide-eyed boys turn into battle-hardened survivors, wounds too deep to heal. Before we can talk about the journey, we first must talk about the home. In the Fellowship, we get a good glimpse of the Shire and the peaceful simplicity that comes with it. As Bilbo says, it is no bad thing to celebrate a simple life. The hobbits represent the life we have as children, the life of peacefulness where the outside world doesn't need to take worry in our mind. To read in the countryside, enjoy quiet nature, and farm peacefully is the ideal life. This is even shown in the Shire's theme, made up to be peaceful and nostalgic for a similar time, where you could just kick up your hairy feet and smoke pipeweed. To return to our characters, we see they also have a childlike innocence to them. Frodo being all laughs and sarcastic quips, along with jumping to hug Gandalf as a child would hug a loving uncle they haven't seen in a few months. Merry and Pippin stealing the fireworks shows more childlike ignorance without a fear of permanent consequence. These 3 are the life of the party, dancing and driving things forward to try and have a good time. Socially, Sam is the opposite compared to his friends, being shy and reserved. Nonetheless, in the blissful bubble of the Shire, Sam's biggest battle is talking to his crush, Rosie. Overall, this entire birthday scene and early Hobbiton in general is something that is referred back to by the hobbits when they go on their adventure. Their idealized life that becomes more of a mythical state rather than a real place that exists. Hobbiton and the Shire remain as a bubble of the idealized time of Tolkien's youth, a simple place, surrounded by good nature, away from any truths of the real world. Of course, this all starts to crumble as soon as Bilbo leaves, and the truth of the One Ring is exposed. The outside world has crept into the bubble and popped it for Frodo. This burden has been placed on him, and he must face the consequences of a complex world. If Frodo stays and hides the ring, it'll only be so long before the Nazgul come and destroy the place he loves. But if he goes on this journey, he will destroy any hope of truly returning to the Shire. Then Sam is roped in as his lover, good friend, along with Merry and Pippin. To leave the Shire is to leave simplicity. To leave the bubble of a life where the worst problems are simply solved by gaining the courage to talk to a girl. The problems outside the Shire can only be solved with great bravery, and the sounds of swords singing as men dance with blades to their death. The journey the hobbits take is a death of their simple innocence. These 4 friends all nearly die at certain moments, and witness the horrors of war. From the early days of the journey to the prancing pony, to the end where Frodo and Sam climb the slopes of Mount Doom, dangers around every corner. Going into detail and talking about every encounter would be absolutely neurotic, so instead I'm going to talk about the important details and how they relate to our heroes. The first major scar for Frodo comes as the Nazgul attack the hobbits and Aragorn on Withertop. The hobbits show a childlike innocence by cooking a late-night snack. However, we aren't in Hobbiton anymore, and this fire draws the Ringwraiths. As a direct result of this, Frodo is stabbed and poisoned. Hobbits, known for having a passion for eating, just want their midnight snack. But now, something as simple as cooking food leads to disaster and nearly Frodo's death. This scene proves to hobbits and us that things that were once without consequence in the Shire have become factors in deciding life or death. But luckily, Aragorn saves their lives, showing again the problems outside the bubble of the Shire are solved with steel ringing on steel. Luckily, they are able to make it to the elves in Rivendell, where Frodo is saved. Making it this far, the hobbits believe they made it to the end of their journey. The final hurrah of hobbit simplicity is that in Rivendell. When Frodo sees Bilbo, the Shire's theme plays in full, as the thought of Hobbiton and the Shire flows through Frodo's mind. In some important dialogue, he remarks on this. As a child, Frodo wished to go on a great adventure just like Bilbo did. Bilbo's journey represents that of folktales, the embellished journey for children, but Frodo's represents that of wretched reality. And just as Tolkien and his friends thought they were going to go off on a grand journey and come back heroes who fought gallantly just like the stories, but fighting in the trenches is no gallant thing. Frodo and Sam wish to return home to the simpleness of the Shire, but climbing out of their trench and returning is impossible, no matter how much Sam and Frodo want to. The Council of Elrond is really what seals Frodo's fate. as it becomes clear that if a man, elf, or dwarf took the ring to be destroyed, they would instantly be corrupted, and the only one who can maybe make it all the way to Mount Doom is Frodo. If we want to talk about the true depth of simplicity, this is that moment. The adventure now is not like Bilbo's tale of a wondrous journey, but one of saving the world. The Shire will become more distant, the myth of home would grow, and there would be much worse than being stabbed by the Witch King. So, our fellowship leaves Rivendell and sets out for a journey to change the world. Eventually, we make it to the deep mines of Moria, where Gandalf and Frodo talk. First of Gollum and Pity, which is its own video, but for our purposes, they talk about living through history and being part of a great event. Frodo again wishes to return home, return to the Shire where there is no true worry, but Gandalf tells Frodo so does everyone else, and it's not for them to decide. When we live through these events, we can only do our best and try to do the right thing. In this new reality, there is no simple answer anymore, and Frodo must try to find hope in these deathly times. But a giant fucking demon from the abyss attacks the Fellowship, and wise old mentor Gandalf dies in front of Frodo. I think an important thing to remember is Frodo and Sam never see Gandalf return, and believe he is dead for the rest of the journey until they return to Minas Tirith, giving him another wretched experience that is undergone in the journey to Mordor. Another thing to add to Frodo's wretched list is his vision at Lothlorien, as he watches the Shire and all his kin be taken prisoner or murdered by Sauron's army. If that wasn't enough, Galadriel tells him to bear a ring is to be alone, and he can't really trust anyone. This is exemplified when Boromir attacks Frodo for the ring, corrupted by its power and influenced by his father. By the end of the Fellowship, all he has left is Sam. The journey in the first book and movie is the transition from a simple fantasy to complex reality. To take the ring to Mordor is the death of Frodo's innocence as a hobbit. The realms of men are a dark and brutal place where death hides in every corner, and all Frodo can do is try to do what's right. The Two Towers, from Frodo and Sam's point of view, mostly focuses on Smeagol and the implications of natural good and evil, which in itself is its own can of worms I'm not going to dive into. What is important from our point of view is the toll this journey takes on the hobbits. Merry and Pippin are captured, long to return home, and see this journey all as a big mistake. Again, just wanting to return to the simple bubble of the Shire. As Sam and Frodo travel closer to the Black Gate, they go through the Dead Marshes. Walking through, they start to see the faces of the dead in the water, and Frodo becomes entranced and falls in. This relates again to Tolkien's time in the Swamp, dead faces in the mud, that fill you with the darkest memories that war brings. The journey only gets worse and worse, the ring becoming heavier and heavier for Frodo to carry forward, all to the point where he nearly just gives in and lets the Nazgul take him, until Sam saves him. Sam gives everything he can muster to try to keep Frodo going. By rights, the hobbits shouldn't be here. This is no place for them, for anyone. This war has brought so much death and destruction that anyone would falter and give in. But just like the grand stories of war and the tales that really mattered, the bad times pass, and a day where you can truly put them behind will come. Holding on to hope and the idea that there is good in the world will keep them going, what they need to hold on to survive. The Shire, home, and all that they remember is worth fighting for, so the hobbits find a way to persevere and keep going. In their final journey to Mordor, Frodo and Sam go through their toughest moments. From Minas Morgul, to Frodo being corrupted by the ring and telling Sam to leave, to Shelob stinging Frodo, and Sam becoming a true hero by saving Frodo after he's been taken by Sauron's orcs. In Mordor itself, both nearly crumble. The ring breaks Frodo's skin and breaks his will to continue on. By the time they are deep in Mordor, both believe there is going to be no return journey. This journey is one that leads to death. Sam, while still having most of his humanity intact, watches as Frodo crumbles. The happy, witty Frodo in Fellowship died, and we are left with a Frodo who is emotionally ruined by the ring. However, even in the most bleak of places, Sam finds beauty above the great shadow that is cast by Mordor, just as some would find beauty in the quiet after the horrors of a great battle. Climbing the slope of Mount Doom is both our heroes at their lowest. While it seems Frodo has lost all strength, Sam cradles him and talks of home, how it will soon be spring and the crops will bloom and people will be eating the first strawberries with cream. But Frodo doesn't remember something like that. The taste of food is gone, the sounds of nature faint. Frodo's memories of a simple Shire are gone. That life is over now. After going through all these horrors, the Shire is now a mythological place, and returning is an impossible task. Somehow, Sam finds the energy to carry Frodo, and even though Gollum attacks, they make it into Mount Doom. And though it wasn't as simple as Frodo throwing in the ring and being done with it, the Ring of Power is destroyed. In the process, Frodo loses a finger and some of his sense of self. But in destroying the One Ring, Frodo regains his humanity and remembers home. He can see the Shire again, hear the river flowing once more, and recalls all that he once enjoyed in life for what he believes is the last time. Before they can die, however, Gandalf arrives with his flying friends. After the cruelty of it all, the new day Sam talked about finally arrives, and Frodo awakes to the Fellowship restored in Minas Tirith. He finally learns Gandalf returned after his epic duel with the fire monster, and is once again with his friends. The hobbits stand taller than any man and return home. However, while they do return to a familiar place and come home, the Shire now seems entirely different. The music is more quiet and somber. Hobbits who used to be the life of the party now sit quietly at a table, drinking ale with a melancholy look. The Shire had been spoken about so much on their journey, how it was a mistake to ever leave, how they remembered the great taste of food and the good times of it all. In what Sam and Frodo believed to be their last moments alive, they thought of home. But in returning, it's nothing as they once imagined. And it never could be. For the Shire to them was the life before the journey, before they saw the horrors of war and absolute power. A life where they never had to think about the outside world, and the biggest problem was talking to a girl. All of that is gone now. Even though the Shire did not change an inch, the hobbits are beyond recognition. To Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, the Shire is a skewed version of its former self. The adventure was a death of all simplicity and true childlike wonder. Just as Tolkien left home with adventure in his eyes, so did the hobbits, and they all came back battle-hardened survivors. But while they cannot toast to the life they once lived, they can toast to being alive and returning. Sam also now, after facing down some of the greatest beings in Middle-earth, goes to talk to Rosie and marries her, which brings the smiles back to the hobbits, and shows the passing of childlike problems and simplicity, which now seem like nothing more than a distant memory. But while Sam marries Rosie and finds peace, Frodo cannot do the same. During Sam's speech in the Two Towers, he asks, "How can the world go back to the way it was after so much bad happened?" The answer is, it can't. Frodo will never heal from his wounds carrying the ring. He can never just easily slip back into his life beforehand. The wretched, soul-breaking journey will be in his every breath. Even in finally returning the Bag End, there is no enjoying the fresh air of the Shire. The bubble of Hobbiton is gone, his childlike innocence is gone, and there's no true return. Even if the Shire is the same, Frodo's mindset and experiences are not, creating an entirely new world that never allows Frodo to return to the Shire. The only true way for Frodo to ever heal from what he went through, the only true way for him to find peace, was to leave his old life behind and search for a new one. For true peace does not come in reliving one's past, but true peace lay in forgetting your old familiar and adapting to a new way of life that helps you reconcile old experiences of life and new experiences with death. So Frodo gets on the ship to the lands of the Undying to begin a new journey, one where he can finally return from Mordor, finally being able to look forward and live a life of peace. Faithless is he that says farewell when the road darkens. J.R.R. Tolkien.
My grandfather said this mummy is worth millions.